They will smile in your face, shake your hand, and pray in silence that you fail. Some people aren't in your life to love you. They're here to drain you. You've been taught to please, to be agreeable, to bend just so you can keep the peace. And that's why the wrong people cling to you. They smell weakness like wolves smell blood. The truth is, life doesn't reward the nicest, it rewards the strongest. The secret is not about fighting them, it's about becoming a person whose energy makes the toxic too uncomfortable to even approach. You have to radiate such certainty in yourself that their manipulation bounces off like bullets on steel. When you stop needing approval, when your silence feels heavier than their words, you become untouchable. You think boundaries are about saying no. They're not. Boundaries are about becoming so rooted in your value that you don't even have to explain yourself. You walk different. You speak different. You move like you know your worth. And the moment you do, the fakes and the snakes will scatter, not because you chase them away, but because they can't breathe in the altitude of your self-respect. When you live your life depending on what other people think, you are building your happiness on sand. The moment someone frowns at you, questions you, or throws a little shade, your whole mood shifts. That's because deep down, you've given away the steering wheel of your self-worth to people who don't even know where they're going themselves. Needing external validation is like living on borrowed air. You survive only when someone else gives you permission to breathe. And that is a dangerous way to exist. The truth is, most people are not even thinking about you the way you think they are. They are too caught up in their own insecurities, their own fears, and their own battles. Yet you waste your energy wondering if they approve, if they like you, if they think you're good enough. Here's the hard reality. If you keep chasing their approval, you will never truly find yourself. You will mold and remold your personality like clay, trying to fit into everyone else's version of acceptable. You'll laugh when you don't find something funny, agree when your heart is screaming no, and shrink yourself so you don't seem too much. That is the slow death of the soul. You break free from this prison when you realize your value doesn't fluctuate like a stock price. It doesn't rise because someone compliments you, and it doesn't crash because someone criticizes you. It is constant, unchangeable, because it's not given to you by the crowd. It's something you were born with. External validation feels good because it's like sugar to the brain. It gives you a rush. But just like sugar, it's addictive and leaves you weaker in the long run. The more you depend on it, the more you crave it, and the more powerless you become when it's taken away. Think about it. How many times have you been ready to take a bold step only to freeze because you wondered, what will people say? That one question has killed more dreams than failure ever has. The people you're scared of disappointing are often the same people who are doing nothing with their own lives. And here you are, handing them the authority to decide the fate of yours. It stops when you choose yourself without hesitation. This doesn't mean you become arrogant or stop caring about being respectful. It means your sense of worth comes from an internal compass, not a jury of strangers. You start asking yourself, do I like this version of me instead of do they like me? You stop dressing, talking, and living to impress and instead do it to express. The shift happens when you realize you cannot please everyone, and it's foolish to even try. The second you please one group, you'll offend another. It's a game you can't win, and the only way to win is to stop playing. When you no longer need validation, people sense it. There's a weight in your presence, an authority in your voice, a calmness in your eyes. You're no longer desperate to be accepted, which ironically makes people respect you more. They can't control you with their praise or their criticism, and that makes you powerful. The opinions of others become background noise. You hear them, but they no longer dictate the music you dance to. You still listen, you still consider feedback, but the final decision is yours. And because it's yours, you own it fully, whether it succeeds or fails. To get there, you must start small. Every time you feel the urge to ask someone if they think you're making the right choice, pause and ask yourself instead. When you post something online, resist checking how many likes it gets. When someone disagrees with you, resist the urge to defend yourself to win their approval. Let your silence speak for you. Over time, you'll notice a freedom you've never felt before. You won't be weighed down by the invisible chains of public opinion. You won't measure your worth in claps, likes, or nods of approval. You'll learn to trust your gut in a way that feels unshakable. And here's the irony. Once you stop chasing validation, the right kind of people will naturally gravitate toward you. Not because you begged for their acceptance, but because they're drawn to the authenticity and self-respect you radiate. You'll attract people who value you for you, not for the mask you wore to please them. And the toxic ones? They'll drift away because they can't manipulate someone who doesn't need their approval. This is the hidden power. When you stop needing external validation, you stop living a life on someone else's leash. You start building a life that is yours in every sense of the word. And that right there is the kind of life worth fighting for. If you want, I can also give you a psychological breakdown of how to practically train yourself to stop seeking external validation so it becomes a reflex, not just a concept. That would make this mindset bulletproof. Most people believe the most powerful person in the room is the one speaking the loudest, taking up the most space, and commanding all the attention. That's a lie. Real power moves quietly. Real influence sits in the shadows, watching, calculating, and understanding before it strikes. Speaking less is not about being timid or afraid. It's about understanding that your words are currency, and the more you waste them, the less they're worth. The person who listens more than they speak is always 2 steps ahead, because while others are too busy performing, they are gathering information, reading body language, and noticing the details everyone else misses. Observation is a skill most people underestimate. They think they're paying attention, but they're only hearing words, not watching the shifts in tone, the twitch of a lip, the glance to the floor when a lie is told. Every interaction is a chess game, and when you speak too much, you're showing your pieces to the opponent, you're revealing your strategy before the match has even begun. The wise know when to speak and when to keep silent, because silence forces the other person to reveal themselves. People are uncomfortable with quiet. They rush to fill it with words, and in those rushed words, they expose their insecurities, their real intentions, and sometimes their weaknesses. When you speak less, you control the rhythm of the conversation. You are not reacting to everything. You're choosing what is worth your attention. This creates an aura of mystery that makes people lean in, wonder what you're thinking, and value it more when you finally do speak. But to truly master this, you must learn how to observe deeply. Observation isn't just staring, it's decoding. It's noticing patterns in behavior, understanding how people react under stress, seeing who interrupts others and who doesn't, who dominates conversations and who fades into the background. It's watching how someone's eyes change when they speak about what they love versus when they lie. The more you practice observation, the sharper your instincts become. You'll start seeing what others miss. Hidden alliances in a group, unspoken rivalries, small gestures that reveal big truths. And once you can see those truths, you can navigate situations with precision instead of luck. Speaking less also gives you the advantage of keeping your emotional state hidden. The person who talks too much often reveals their frustrations, their doubts, and their excitement prematurely. They give away leverage without even realizing it. But the one who speaks little keeps others guessing. Are they confident? Are they unimpressed? Are they holding back a trump card? This uncertainty works in your favor because it forces people to treat you with caution and respect. The biggest challenge to speaking less is the ego. Most people talk to prove they're intelligent, to prove they belong, to prove they're right. But every time you try to prove yourself verbally, you're admitting that you need the other person's recognition. True strength is being able to hold your position without broadcasting it. You don't need to tell everyone you're in control. You just are. And when you finally choose to speak, your words carry weight because they are rare. Think of it like this. If you eat dessert every day, it's no longer special. But if you only have it occasionally, you savor every bite. Your voice should work the same way. When you choose your moments, people will listen more closely. Observing more also sharpens your ability to adapt. You're not charging into situations with assumptions. You're letting the room tell you what's really happening before you act. It's the difference between walking into a dark room swinging wildly and walking in with night vision goggles. You see clearly, you move with intention, and you waste no energy on unnecessary strikes. Speaking less is also a defense mechanism against manipulation. The more you talk, the more you give someone ammunition to use against you. In arguments, negotiations, and even casual conversations, keeping your cards close ensures you can't be twisted, misquoted, or trapped. When you answer only what needs to be answered and nothing more, you create boundaries without having to explain them. But this discipline takes practice. It's tempting to fill silence, to share your thoughts immediately, to add value by contributing constantly. You must learn to resist that urge. Let others talk. Let them feel heard. Let them believe they're leading the conversation. Meanwhile, you're the one collecting the real power, the understanding of who they are and how they move. You don't win every battle by being louder, quicker, or flashier. Sometimes you win simply by knowing more. And the only way to know more is to shut up and pay attention. So next time you're in a meeting, a family gathering, or even a heated discussion, speak less than you normally would. Resist the urge to interrupt or prove your point right away. Watch the dynamics unfold. Notice who tries to dominate, who agrees without thinking, and who keeps changing their story. You'll be amazed at what people reveal when they don't realize someone is listening with purpose. Over time, this habit will change how people see you. They will stop seeing you as just another voice in the noise and start seeing you as someone whose words matter. They will watch your reactions, study your silences, and take your opinions more seriously when you choose to share them. And that's the hidden truth. When you speak less and observe more, you are no longer reacting to life, you are anticipating it. You're no longer playing the game everyone else is playing, you're playing the game above it. That's where the real power lives. If you want, I can also expand this into a tactical playbook with real-world examples of situations where speaking less, observing more wins you the advantage every time. That would make it even more practical to use daily. There's a reason the wisest people in history warn against arguing with fools. The moment you step into that arena, you've already lost. Not because your logic isn't sound, but because the fool has no interest in truth. Their goal is not understanding, it's chaos, ego, and attention. They don't care if they're wrong as long as they feel they've won in front of an audience. When you argue with someone like that, you're giving them exactly what they want, your energy, your time, and most importantly, the satisfaction of knowing they've pulled you down to their level. The danger is not just that you waste your breath. It's that outsiders looking in often can't tell the difference between the wise and the foolish when they see them both fighting. Your reputation suffers simply by being seen in the mud. That's why silence is your sword. You don't need to correct every lie, counter every insult, or defend yourself against every ignorant claim. The truth has a way of standing on its own for those willing to see it. And for those who refuse to see, no amount of explanation will open their eyes. When you remain silent, you rob the fool of the fuel they need to keep going. They thrive on reaction, your anger, your defense, your attempts to prove them wrong. When you give them nothing, they swing wildly into the air, looking for something to hit, and often end up exposing themselves without your help. Your silence creates a mirror where their own words and behavior reflect back at them, and in time, even their supporters will start to notice. Silence doesn't mean weakness, it means mastery over yourself. It means you are so secure in who you are and what you know that you don't need to win every petty battle to prove it. Fools feed on ego wars. You feed on peace and focus. You know your worth isn't determined by some public shouting match and you refuse to be baited. The ego will tempt you to set the record straight. But you must remember that truth is not always defended in the moment. Sometimes truth is defended by letting time do the talking. Many of the world's most respected leaders, warriors, and thinkers understood this. They didn't waste energy on those unwilling to listen. They knew that their words were weapons to be used sparingly and only on worthy opponents. A fool is not a worthy opponent because their battlefield is emotion, not logic. If you step into that battlefield, you fight on their terms. And when you fight on their terms, you've already surrendered your advantage. The power of silence lies in its ability to unsettle. When someone expects a fight and you give them none, they lose their footing. They expect you to get defensive, raise your voice, or retaliate, but instead you give them a calm, steady gaze and say nothing. This unnerves them because they cannot control you. They cannot get a rise out of you, and without that rise, they have no victory. They'll either escalate until they self-destruct or retreat out of frustration. Either way, you win without swinging a single verbal punch. There's also another layer to this. When you choose silence, you protect your mind from being dragged into their madness. Fools will try to twist your words, take them out of context, and use them against you. They will interrupt, misrepresent, and bait you into emotional responses that cloud your judgment. The less you say, the less ammunition they have. You retain control of the narrative because you never handed them the pen. And while they may try to paint you as arrogant or evasive, those who matter, the ones who think, who listen, who analyze, will see your restraint as strength. In professional settings, this is even more critical. You will meet people who argue for the sake of arguing, who challenge ideas not to improve them, but to undermine the person presenting them. If you engage with every one of them, you'll never get real work done. By letting their noise pass over you like wind, you conserve your energy for actual progress. You make it clear, without saying it, that you are not in the business of wrestling pigs. You have bigger battles to fight. And here's the most important truth. Silence is not passive. It is active. It's a deliberate choice to disengage from what is beneath you. It's knowing that not every hill is worth dying on, and not every fight is worth the bruises. You can acknowledge a fool's words with a nod, a faint smile, or even by walking away. Each of those actions speaks louder than any retort you could craft. They say, I'm not here to play your game, I'm playing mine. But don't confuse silence with suppression. Suppression is holding back because you're scared. Strategic silence is holding back because you've already decided the fight isn't worth it. One is fear, the other is wisdom. The real mastery comes when you can feel every muscle in your body wanting to clap back, and instead you let the moment pass, knowing you've just saved yourself hours, days, or even years of wasted conflict. Over time, this practice will shift the way people treat you. Fools will stop targeting you because they realize you won't give them what they want. Intelligent people will respect you more because you're not reactive. And your own life will feel lighter because you're no longer carrying the weight of every pointless debate. The world is full of people who love to fight for the sake of fighting. They exist online, in workplaces, in families, in social circles. You can't eliminate them, but you can make a decision today that you will never again let their noise dictate your focus. You will wield silence like a blade, not to wound, but to cut away the nonsense that doesn't deserve your breath. That's how you protect your peace, your dignity, and your power. And once you learn this, you'll see the truth. You don't win against fools by defeating them. You win by refusing to play their game at all. Most people want success, but very few are willing to commit to the relentless pursuit of personal growth that success demands. They want the rewards without the transformation. They think growth is something they can do casually in their spare time when it's convenient. But the reality is that the life you want will always demand more from you than the person you are right now. If you're not evolving, you're decaying. There's no neutral state. You're either sharpening your mind, strengthening your body, expanding your skills, and deepening your character, or you're slowly becoming irrelevant in a world that moves faster every day. Personal growth is not a side project. It's the foundation for every victory you will ever have. Without it, you will eventually hit a ceiling, a point where your current habits, mindset, and knowledge can't carry you any further. And in that moment, the people who kept growing while you stood still will pass you, and you'll be left wondering what happened. That's why the commitment has to be relentless. Not when I feel like it. Not when life gets easier. Every single day. You can't grow in bursts and expect lasting results. You have to live it. That means reading the books that challenge your thinking, not just the ones that make you feel good. It means putting yourself in uncomfortable situations where you're forced to adapt instead of staying in the safe zones you've already mastered. It means being brutally honest about your weaknesses and then attacking them with discipline until they're no longer holding you back. It means investing your time, money, and energy into mentors, courses, and experiences that accelerate your progress, even when it's inconvenient, even when it's uncomfortable. And yes, it means making sacrifices. You cannot become the best version of yourself while living like everyone else. You will have to give up certain habits, environments, and even relationships that no longer align with where you're going. This is where most people quit. They want growth as long as it doesn't cost them anything. But the truth is, growth will cost you everything that is small, lazy, and mediocre about you. In return, it will give you everything that is powerful, capable, and extraordinary. Relentless growth is also about awareness. You can't just keep grinding in the wrong direction. You need to constantly evaluate, what am I learning? How am I improving? Where am I wasting time? What skills will I need in 5 years that I don't have right now? Most people never ask these questions, so they spend years working hard on things that don't move them forward. A relentless growth mindset requires humility because it forces you to admit you don't know everything and that there's always room to get better. The moment you think you've arrived is the moment you start dying. You have to approach each day like a student, no matter how much success you've already achieved. Even the greatest athletes, entrepreneurs, and leaders in the world have coaches, advisors, and training routines. They understand that mastery is not a destination, it's a lifestyle. And here's the thing, when you invest in your own growth, you multiply your value in every area of life. You become more valuable to your career because you have skills and insights others don't. You become more valuable to your relationships because you bring maturity, perspective, and emotional intelligence. You become more valuable to yourself because you start to trust your own ability to adapt, overcome, and thrive in any situation. People often say they can't afford to invest in growth, but the truth is you can't afford not to. Every day you delay is another day you're operating with outdated tools while the world upgrades around you. The cost of staying the same will always be higher than the cost of change. And you don't have to start with massive leaps. You start with daily disciplines. Read for 30 minutes instead of scrolling your phone. Replace 1 hour of TV with an hour of learning a new skill. Or surround yourself with people who are ahead of you instead of those who pull you down. Push your body physically so that your mind learns resilience. Keep track of your progress so you can see proof that you're improving. Over time, these habits compound. What was once difficult becomes second nature, and what was once impossible becomes your new normal. But you can't stop. The moment you stop growing, you start slipping backward. The most dangerous trap isn't failure, it's comfort. Comfort whispers that you've done enough, that you've earned the right to relax, that you're good where you are. And that's exactly when opportunities pass you by and competitors overtake you. Relentless growth means you never let yourself settle. You celebrate your wins, but you immediately ask, what's next? How can I be better tomorrow than I am today? This mindset keeps you sharp, keeps you hungry, and keeps you ready for whatever life throws at you. There will be days when it feels like you're not making progress, when the work is hard and the results are slow. Those are the days that separate the committed from the casual. Anyone can grow when it's exciting and easy. True growth warriors keep going when it's tedious and thankless because they know that's where the real transformation happens. And here's the beautiful part. The more you grow, the more you inspire others to grow. Your example becomes a living blueprint for what's possible. People will see the changes in your mindset, your discipline, your results, and they'll want to rise to that level too. Your growth will ripple out and impact far more people than you realize. That's why investing in yourself is never selfish. It's the most generous thing you can do because the stronger you are, the more value you can give to the world. Relentless personal growth is not about perfection. It's about progress. It's about refusing to be the same person a year from now that you are today. It's about meeting life with the best version of you at every stage, no matter how many times you have to rebuild, relearn, or reinvent. And when you live this way, something powerful happens. You stop fearing the future. Or you know that no matter what changes, you will adapt. No matter what challenges come, you will rise because you're not just building skills, you're building yourself into someone who cannot be broken. And that is the ultimate return on investment. Most people talk about boundaries like they're optional, like they're a set of suggestions instead of the rules of engagement for your life. They say they have boundaries, but when those boundaries are tested, they crumble at the first sign of pressure because they're afraid of upsetting someone or being seen as difficult. That's why their relationships drain them. Their work stresses them and their life feels out of control because their boundaries are not truly boundaries, they're hopes. A boundary is only real when it's enforced, and enforcement means it doesn't bend to someone else's comfort. If it bends every time someone pushes, it's not a boundary, it's a decoration. Making your boundaries non-negotiable is not about being cold or cruel. It's about protecting your energy, your time, and your mental peace like your life depends on it, because it does. Without strong boundaries, you will spend your days reacting to the demands of others instead of building the life you want. You'll find yourself saying yes when your gut screams no, and every time you do, you teach people that your no doesn't mean anything. They learn that they can take from you without consequences, and before you know it, you're living for everyone else's comfort except your own. Non-negotiable boundaries require clarity first. You can't enforce what you haven't defined. You have to sit down and decide, what is acceptable for me? What is not? What will I never allow no matter who's asking? This is where most people fail. They don't take the time to figure out their own limits, so they end up reacting in the moment, which makes them inconsistent. And inconsistency is an open invitation for people to keep testing you. Once you've defined your boundaries, the next step is to communicate them clearly. This doesn't mean long explanations or apologetic tones. It means direct, calm statements of fact. I don't work after 7 p.m. I'm not available for that. I don't lend money. I need notice before visits. You don't have to justify your limits to anyone who respects you. In fact, the people who demand lengthy justifications are often the same people who plan to ignore them. That's why non-negotiable boundaries are also a filter. They reveal who values you and who only values what they can get from you. When you make your boundaries firm, some people will get angry, offended, or distant. That's not a problem. It's proof the boundaries are working. The ones who respect you will adapt without drama. The ones who don't were only around because you were convenient. And here's the truth. Every time you enforce a boundary, you build self-respect. You show yourself that your needs matter, that you can trust yourself to protect your own well-being. That self-respect radiates outwards and changes the way people treat you. You stop attracting those who drain you because you no longer tolerate their behavior. Instead, you attract people who value mutual respect, balance, and healthy interaction. But don't expect this to be easy. People who have benefited from your lack of boundaries will push back hard when you start enforcing them. They'll guilt trip you, manipulate you, or try to convince you you're overreacting. They'll bring up the past, pointing out how you never had a problem with it before. That's when you must remember. Just because you tolerated something in the past doesn't mean you have to tolerate it now. Growth means outgrowing what once felt normal. It means raising your standards and refusing to lower them again. Another key to making your boundaries non-negotiable is consistency. You cannot enforce them one day and ignore them the next because that sends a mixed signal. People will start testing you to see if today is the day they can get around your rules. Every time you cave, you undo the progress you've made. You have to be willing to walk away from situations, opportunities, and even relationships that repeatedly violate your boundaries. If you're not willing to do that, your boundaries are just words. Walking away is the ultimate enforcement tool because it shows that your limits are not for sale. You're not interested in negotiating your peace. You're not available for endless debates about why your needs are valid. You've made your decision and you stand by it. Making your boundaries non-negotiable will also test your ability to handle discomfort. Sometimes enforcing them will make you feel guilty, awkward, or even lonely at first. That's normal because you're breaking old patterns and teaching people a new way to treat you. The key is to remember that short-term discomfort is the price of long-term peace. Every time you choose to endure that discomfort instead of giving in, you strengthen the muscle of self-protection. Over time, it becomes natural. Saying no longer feels like a confrontation. It feels like self-care. And that's the shift that changes everything. When you stop seeing boundaries as selfish and start seeing them as necessary for your survival and growth. Think of your boundaries like the walls of a fortress. Without them, anyone can wander in, take what they want, and leave you to clean up the mess. With them, you control who gets access when and under what conditions. You decide who's worth letting past the gates and who stays outside. That control is not about shutting the world out. It's about making sure the right people can come in and the wrong people can't. The beauty of non-negotiable boundaries is that they free up your time, energy, and focus for the things that actually matter. When you stop spending hours dealing with the fallout of saying yes to the wrong things, you can say yes to the right things without hesitation. You can invest more in relationships that nourish you, work that fulfills you, and goals that move you forward. You're no longer weighed down by resentment because you're no longer betraying yourself to please others. And here's the most important truth. People will always treat you according to what you allow. If you allow disrespect, you'll get disrespect. If you allow constant interruptions, you'll be interrupted. But when you set and enforce non-negotiable boundaries, you train the world how to treat you. The right people will rise to the standard and the wrong ones will remove themselves. Either way, you win. This is not about building walls out of fear. It's about building standards out of self-respect. It's about living in such a way that your peace is protected. Your time is honored, and your energy is preserved for what truly matters. And once you live like that, you'll never go back. When you finally make your boundaries non-negotiable, life becomes lighter, clearer, and more intentional. You no longer waste time justifying